Zachariah Tiemens, who's got like virtually all these questions. You've talked about how thorium reactors will provide us with virtually free, virtually limitless clean energy for everyone. Isn't it more realistic and in line with human nature to expect that we will come up with infinitely more both essential and trivial uses for energy to offset its wider availability? If I understand this correctly, it's kind of the argument that says, hey, we're never going to use 100 kilobytes of RAM. It's just inconceivable that you need that much RAM. Well, once you have 100 kilobytes of RAM, then the demand increases, and now I've got 64 gigs, maybe 128 gigabytes of RAM. It's not enough. So if your question is, will the energy demand increase to match the energy supply, I hope so. Burning energy for trivial reasons is what civilization is all about. That's what makes life worth living, is the trivial burning of energy for non-essential purposes. And I can give you some good example of this. I have an airplane that is powered by 150 horses. My car has 306, I want to say. Do I need 306 horses of energy to take me where I need to go? I most certainly do not, but it's nice. And if I could get a car that had 600, I'd take it. The pointless burning of energy is what makes civilization worthwhile. And for those of you eco-weenies out there and you cognitively challenged types, well, have a car with 600 horsepower is ridiculous. Really? How many phones? How many songs do you have on your iPad or your iPhone? How many songs do you have, Mr. Alternative Music, hippy dippy, green loving, planet hugger? Because if you have more than one song, that's more songs than you need. I hate to break this to you, but it takes energy to record. Even alternative indie music takes energy to record. And it takes energy to reproduce, and it takes energy for your phone, and it takes energy to do all these things. And it's just a matter of you using energy differently than I am. I'm proud of the fact that I'm burning energy. You're trying to pretend that you're not proud of it, but you burn more energy than I do probably. By the way, Bert came down real hard on one of these events because somebody apparently at NASA is working on an electric airplane that gets a 100-mile range. And Bert stood in front of these people and said, "What happened to you? What happened to you? We used to be about laminar flow, about flying around the world on one tank of gas. You're talking about a coal-burning airplane that gets 100 miles range? You should be laughed out of the room." But it's electric. Right, where's the electricity being generated by? If it's back east, it's probably coal. You have a coal-burning airplane. Look, energy is civilization. Energy is technology. I'm sitting here using energy right now. You're using energy to watch it. I want endless energy. I want to run the air. I want my life to be 71 degrees all the time unless I decide I want it to be 74. I don't want to worry about it. I want to be comfortable. I've earned it. And when I say I've earned it, I mean my genes have earned it. I like to think that I'm contributing my small part, but my genes have earned it. We've struggled. My great-great-great-grandfathers were cotton carters. They were mill workers in textile mills in Lancashire. They're dirt poor. They died at 40. They had 11 kids. They sacrificed, scrimped, saved, and they had one little pot-bellied stove to heat the entire house. And the first thing you do in the morning is to break the sheet of ice on the little wash basin they had in the house. And before that, they were coal miners. And before that, they were peat harvesters that just sat out in the middle of the goddamn marsh and sat there with a big blade and a pitchfork and cut, compressed vegetable matter so they could burn it to stay alive. I'm the product of all of those people, and those people worked really hard to make life a little better, and I'm going to burn that energy for them. And I like the idea that there's a little silver golf ball made out of thorium, and it produces all the energy I or my entire family or my friends or all of my friends and their friends could ever use in the entire course of their entire lives. And there's no downside to it. It can't melt down. It's wonderful, beautiful. I love it. Check my privilege. Our friend Cheryl Twomey says, "You're damn right I'm checking my privilege. I check my privilege every day. I check it to make sure it's intact. My privilege belongs to the human race. It's a human privilege. It's a human privilege, and we've paid a very high price for it. And I mean to not only use it, I mean to expand it. I think we should be irrigating the deserts. You know why? Because we can. Because there's no limit to the amount of seawater out there. Just pump it. Desalinate it and pump it. What? Do you have any idea what that costs in energy? It's a lot of energy. So we got all the energy we need. I want the world to be a garden. and I want people to be able to do what they want to do. You see, if energy is free, this is going to come as a big shock to you, big progressives out there, because I know how much the idea bothers you enormously. In fact, I think this is the one thing you're actually more afraid of in the entire world. You know that guys like me like to burn energy because we're top of the food chain steely-eyed missilemen, and we fly airplanes and have big, fast cars. But the thing that really does concern you, in fact scares you, and I think you have nightmares about this, is if there were unlimited free energy, then there wouldn't be any poor people anymore. Poor people would be able to have motorhomes and ski-doos and snowmobiles and airplanes. Because if energy was really cheap, products would cost almost nothing. And then poor people get to play too, which is what I want. I want everybody to be able to play. But of course, if there are no poor people, then you don't have anything to use as a fig leaf for your own power grab. And especially the fact for you progressives, if there's no poor people anymore, then what do we need you for? In other words, if we were to have all the energy we wanted to and have the kind of economy where anybody who's got a job can afford to have just about anything they want to in terms of fun, what do we need you for? How do you get to feel better than everybody else if there's nobody better for you to feel? I mean, if there's nobody poor and downtrodden because there's enough energy for them to be able to live their lives just like everybody else, what do we need big progressive douchebags for? You're obsolete. Of course you want to limit energy. You want to limit energy because you're rich and you're educated. You're going to have all the energy you need, and if you limit energy, then those poor people, so sad. It's terrible. It's tragic what happens to them, poor things. Now you got poor people that you can use as a fig leaf for your power grab, for your power-hungry control freak minds that have to tell other people what to do. And because you're a champion of poor people, that means you can burn all the energy you want to, and that's okay because you're not one of those rich 1%ers. You're a genuinely caring person who cares about poor people on the planet. It's a giant scam, and every single day I'm more and more on to you. If we had all the energy we wanted, we wouldn't have poor people. Well, I'm going to correct myself. Of course we'd have poor people. We'll always have poor people. Do you know why we'll always have poor people? Here's why. You really need to understand this. We'll always have poor people. We'll just have rich poor people. Like in America, we have fat poor people. We'll always have poor people, and here's why. Because if you have a spectrum of people, if you have even a very flat bell curve, there's going to be the rich here, there's going to be the middle here, there's going to be the poor there. You can't cut the end off of a bell curve without getting a new bell curve, and whoever's on the left end of that bell curve is going to be the poor people. When poor Americans are richer than 93% of the rest of the population of the earth, then poor doesn't mean what you want poor to mean. One of the pithiest things I ever said was in one of the first essays I wrote, but it's as good an example as anything. If you go to a club full of billionaires, the guy with $900 million is a chump, right? If it's a club of billionaires, if you've got $900 million, you're the laughingstock. You're the poor guy. You could set me up with $900 million. I could be the poorest guy in a club full of billionaires. I'd be delighted to be there. I wouldn't spend my time wondering about why they have more money than me. I'd be real grateful of what I could do with the actual money I had. This is how I live my life. That's why I never worry about rich people. I'm not a terribly rich guy, by the way. I haven't socked away money doing this. That's okay. I don't want to sock away money. I have enough money to do things like fly an airplane. That's what I want to do with my life. If I wanted to make more money, I would. I'd be in something a little more lucrative. But I never worry about people that are richer than me. It doesn't bother me. The only thing that bothers me is, can I do the things I want to do? If I can't do the things I want to do, then I have to work harder like I did to get this airplane, because I wanted the airplane, so I had to work harder for it, and I did, and I sacrificed, and I didn't get anything new, and I saved it up, and then, boom, got it. It's mine. And by the way, one of the questions that has been asked when the Long Easy came up is this. Oh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to fly, Bill. I see you looking at that airplane. The airplane looks so cool. It looks like it'd be fun. I never really thought about it before, but I really want to do it, but I can't afford it. You've got to get that out of your head. First of all, if you go on Barnstormers, barnstormers.com, it's an aviation website where they sell airplanes. Just go to Barnstormers and look up Long Easy. You'll find on Barnstormers at any given time, 4 or 5 Long Easies for sale, ranging from probably, I don't know, maybe $18,000. There's a couple for $22,000, $24,000. They get better up at the 30s. Then they get much nicer around 40s. You can make a pretty compelling case that you don't want to buy a bottom-of-the-line Long Easy, but you know what? There are people that will do inspections for $500 and tell you whether the plane's any good or not. And there's a lot of great recommendations out there. Now, $22,000, let's pick a number. Let's say $30,000 is the ballpark for what I paid. A little more than that, but it's in the general vicinity. That is achievable by anybody who has a job in America. How dare you say that? It's true. It's true. All you need is the discipline. If you have the discipline, you've got a good credit rating, $30,000 is not out of reach for any person who has a full-time job in this country. And when people say, well, I don't have that kind of resources, I didn't either. I learned how to fly in a glider port in Crystal, California, just on the other side of the Mojave Mountains, on the other side of the San Gabriel Mountains, south of Mojave, and in the Mojave Desert. And I was flat broke. I was a limo driver. I had no money, none, zero, nothing. And I went out there and I worked for $50 a day, raking rocks in the desert at 115 degrees, and I got paid $50 a day and an hour of flying time. I don't know if that was an hour a week. Might have been an hour every couple of days. It certainly wasn't an hour a day. But I wanted to fly, and so I worked for it. And you can make that deal today. You can get there. You can get there if it takes you 2 years. Before that, I was a limo driver. I was taking helicopter lessons. They were fabulously expensive. $150 an hour. That was my spending money for the month. I just did it, and it's what I wanted. I didn't do anything else. I didn't have a chance to do that and fly. I gave up everything else to fly. And there you go. The planes are inexpensive. And by the way, I said earlier that James Redman's Long Easy, I'm sorry, James, forgive me for that. It was a slip of the tongue. I'm going to beat the snot out of me when you see me next time. James Redman's Bearcoot is the nicest aircraft I've ever seen, and I meant it. It's the nicest airplane I've ever seen of any price. It's the nicest airplane I've ever seen. That wasn't an airplane. He didn't buy an airplane. He had plans. He had sheets of fiberglass and carbon fiber. He had a couple of molded parts. He had to work and work and work. It's all he did. All he did was build this airplane over 15, 11 years, 20 years, whatever it was. And, I don't know the details of this, but when he got started, he could just go out and buy an engine. I mean, this engines, even used engines, in low five figures probably, had to save and save and save and do things he didn't want to do because his love and his passion is in his garage. And he saved his money and he bought an engine and he put it on himself. And he didn't go to engineering school. He taught himself how to do all of this stuff. He taught himself how to do it. He has the nicest airplane I've ever seen out of love, passion, hard work, brains, and desire. And those don't cost a penny. Anybody who wants to get there can get there. Anybody. And if you don't believe me, you want to send me a message on Facebook, I'll tell you how. We'll sit down and we'll plot it out. You can learn how to fly and you can own an airplane. And these airplanes, what you get for what you pay, there's nothing like it. Just go to barnstormers.com, search for Long Easy, and keep looking. Some are turkeys. Most of them are perfectly fine. Some of them are spectacular. But even if you buy a turkey, as long as it's built well enough so that it's safe, it may be cosmetically ugly, but you have somebody who knows what they're doing do the inspection. You say, yeah, the wings are solid. It's not beautiful, but it's solid. It's not going to fall apart on you. Then you spend hours and hours and hours doing what James does all the time. Make it better every day. Gives you something to do. Something tangible, and not just tangible in terms of look at this is the most beautiful airplane in the world. I don't know what James would get for that airplane. He's never going to get what he put into it, needless to say. I mean, he's got millions of dollars of labor into that thing. But it's not a ski trip either, It's an asset, and you can sell that asset when you get tired of it or you get too old or some major emergency comes up and it breaks your heart, but you get 6 figures easily for these Bearcoots, easily. Some of these, a couple of $250,000, not at all out of the range for what you get. It's worth every penny. So, there you go. You can get there, and you just have to understand that you can get there. We've got a couple more, I guess.